All right. Okay. All right. No problem. Glad to have you. All right, folks. Because of the Canvas breach issue thingy, you might, I had to go in and resync all of the grades. So what you were looking at in the Infinite Campus wasn't accurate until this morning when I made sure, because the whole columns were missing. So it didn't sync. So it's synced now. It's not synced, but I had to manually go in and add columns and add grades and all that sort of thing. So now what is in Canvas should match what is in Infinite Canvas. So what you see in Infinite Canvas now is the grade that is going to be posted. So you need to look at that. Tell me if I missed something that you need to fix. And there's only one person I desperately need to speak to. And yes, you are here. All right. All right. Give me 1 minute. Please check your chat. See if I sent you a message. Okay. All right. So like I said, the grades that are in the grade book should be the same as the ones in Infinite Campus. I am going to show one last video today, and then I will let you work on whatever it is you need to work on. I will have one last discussion question for you after. And then that's it. So the only unit, so we did ballistics yesterday. The only other unit I really wanted to kind of touch on was handwriting analysis. I'm sorry we didn't get to it. So we're just going to watch a brief video on that. And then, like I said, I will let you work on whatever it is you need to work on to be a successful senior. Congratulations. You made it.
We're talking about handwriting analysis. As you know, there was a note left at the crime scene next to the flowers on Junebug's dresser that said, "Don't go, it will be a mistake." So we're going to figure out who wrote that using our handwriting and analysis skills. So real quick, just some objectives. By the end of this presentation, you will have learned the process of handwriting analysis, you will have mastered the terminology used in handwriting forensics, and by the end of our lab, which will follow this, you will have examined handwriting examples for similarities and differences, and you will have determined the writer of the note found at our crime scene. So before we start, just a quick reminder, when we see this magic magnifying glass, that's when we take notes. Those things are going to be what's on our codes, what's on our worksheets. So it's important that you know those and that you
Don't
write those
worry about it. You're
down
just
somewhere,
watching.
whether it be a notebook or a piece of paper you have beside you. So without further ado, let's get into it. So why do we even analyze handwriting? Well, it's often left behind at the scene. And not only can it tell us maybe what's going on through the message, we can figure out who was around, what the situation was. Also, handwriting is very distinct. Every single person has different handwriting. For example, I have different handwriting than you do, right? And the reasons for this, there's a couple different reasons. First of all, there's a writing instrument. For example, when I write in pen versus pencil, my pen handwriting is so much messier than my pencil handwriting. The same thing can be said for maybe when you write with a pencil versus a crayon. It's completely different. Another thing is age. I remember my third grade teacher, bless her heart, she had the most gorgeous handwriting I had ever seen. It is the most perfect loopy cursive, and I always wanted handwriting like that. However, my handwriting at that age was basically just chicken scratch. It was print and it was illegible and no one could read it. Age is one that definitely contributed to that. Another thing is mood. So when you are happy and when you are excited, your handwriting is going to be different. It's going to be slightly more spaced apart, and it's also going to flow off the line a little bit. Versus if you're sad or serious, it's going to kind of stick together and be a little bit smushed and smaller and stay on the line. And finally, one of the more obvious ones, when you're in a hurry. And this can tell us more about the situation that was happening at the scene. When you're in a hurry, your handwriting is obviously going to be more messy, right? When you are at the end of a test and you are writing furiously to finish up your sentence, it's going to be very different from when you're at the beginning of the test and you're just thinking about your opinion and you are being very slow. And for that reason, it can also contribute to the variations in handwriting. Now, a document expert is the name of a person that scientifically examines that handwriting. So we're all going to become document experts by the end of this presentation. So you might be thinking, Sarah, how much does a document expert actually have to do? I mean, like, it's not there's many crimes that have to do with handwriting. There actually are. One of the biggest ones is forgery, copying someone else's handwriting or especially signature on an official document. And this can be as big as writing someone's signature on a contract that makes them lose $1 million to say something more relatable to us, like maybe forgetting your permission slip on a field trip and just writing your dad's signature on there because no one's going to tell. Those are both actually crimes. Those are examples of forgery. Now, if you have literary forgery, that means you're copying someone else's handwriting to make a fake historical document. Let's say you wrote a fake constitution and you want to sell it on eBay. That would be literary forgery if you're passing it off as real. Now, if you actually go through and sell it and make some money, that would be fraudulence, forgery in which money is made by the criminal. So fraudulence is forgery plus money. Then we have counterfeiting. So counterfeiting has to do with usually money. It's when false documents are created for deception. It can include passports, green cards, visas, any of those immigration papers, money, or even artwork. I've heard a lot about counterfeiting artwork lately. And then finally, we have obliteration, which is the removal of writing by physical or chemical means. So let's say someone writes, I gave all the money to Sarah and Tom. And let's say I want all the money. So I'm going to take out and Tom. I'm going to obliterate it. And so it just says, I'm giving all the money to Sarah. That would be an example of obliteration, which would be a crime, obviously. So those are things that can be investigated by a document expert. Now, let's actually go through and analyze things. So the three main categories of analysis used by handwriting analysts are letter form, line form, and formatting. So letter form means how does the writer shape their alphabet? So for example, there are a couple of different ways to write an A, right? So there's this version, and then there's this version, correct? So which one is it? That would be an example of letter form. Now, line form means how does the writer shape their line? Does it kind of stay on the same level, or does it kind of float off, or does it kind of sink into it? Those are examples of line form. And finally, we have formatting. How does the writer place their letters? So I'm going to move my face a little bit so we can see this document over here on the right. And as you can see, these letters, they're not going too far off the page on this side. There's a margin, which is an example of formatting. And on top of that, it's pretty close together. That's also an example of formatting, spacing. Now, there are 5 other things that handwriting analysts use within those 3 categories that help them distinguish between the differences in handwriting. The first thing is size. What are the height and width of the letters? So as you can see here, Jack and Jill went to the hill. That's some pretty medium-sized handwriting, I would say. But something to look at is the ratio of height of the short to tall letters. So as you can see here, the A is maybe a little bit less than half the height of the J. Over here in Hill, however, the L's should be around the same size as the H's, but it's obviously not. The L's are shorter. So that would be something that's very distinct in the size of this person's handwriting. Next, we have print versus cursive. Are the capital letters connected to lowercase letters? Is there a mix of both print and cursive writing? As you'll see when you analyze my handwriting later in the lab, my handwriting is a mixture of both print and cursive. I talked about my third grade teacher earlier. She convinced me to write somewhat in cursive, but still somewhat in print. That's a mix that's very distinct towards me. No one else has a mix like I do. And you probably write in a mix like that yourself. So when you talk about print versus cursive, you're thinking about, are the capital letters connected to lowercase letters? And is there a mix? And what kind of mix is it? And next we have slope. Is there a slant to the left or right, or do they have no slant at all? Here's the top line, which is right slant to letters. We're going to draw parallel lines to the words, to the J's and the K's, to the J over here and Jill and the L, to the T. As you can see, all these lines are kind of pointing up and to the right, and it's staying within that sort of parallelogram that we're making. That is a big sign of a right slant to the letters. Now down here where it says left slant to the letters, I honestly think it's either left slant or no slant, because I can draw straight lines and it'll stay in there for the most part. So this is a very big sign that there is no slant, and very rarely do you see no slant. And in addition, slant can give you a pretty big insight onto the speed and the hurriedness of the person that's writing it. Because obviously when you're hurried, you're going to be writing more to the right, because you're trying to get through the sentence. So that's another thing that's important to look at. We're talking about the situation that the scene was found in. So let's continue. How about spacing? How much room is there between words and letters? So I'm going to move my face sort of in the middle here so I can look down on both sides. On the left here, we see that there is less space in between each letter, but more space in between each word. Versus to the right over here, we see that there is more space between each letter and less space between each word. So looking at the ratio of the spacing is really important, because that's something that makes your handwriting different. And finally, last but not least, you have special characters. Are there any weird things that you notice about the handwriting? So here, this Y has a giant curlicue at the end. That's pretty weird. Some people have, when they write 7, they put a little line through the middle. I think that's pretty weird too. That's a special character for sure. One thing that I do when I am writing L's at the end of my word, like removal or carnival, that one L will be cursive, while all the other L's will be print. That's something that's pretty weird about my handwriting that makes it distinct from anything else or anyone else's. And that's going to be something that's going to be a good thing to look for when comparing handwriting samples. Okay, now let's talk about this phrase. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This sentence is used a lot in handwriting analysis, and I'm going to give you 3 seconds to figure out why. Okay, guys, here's the answer. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog has every single letter of the alphabet in it, from A to Z. And we want to use this because it helps us look at special characters. When we have the Z, when we have the J, when we have all these unusual letters that we don't normally see, we can exactly see what their handwriting really says and what the differences and special characteristics are. So whenever we get a handwriting sample, we're going to ask for this particular sentence, as you'll see in the lab. And that brings us to the end of this video. So if you liked analyzing handwriting, you might want to think about these occupations as a job for the future. One is the forensic document examiner that we talked about. They're the ones that work with detectives and the police department to look at documents and see where exactly they came from. However, another one that might be a little bit more untraditional is an autograph authenticator who collects with collectors to make sure rare autographed items are the real deal. So for example, let's say I got this shirt signed by my favorite artist, Harry Styles, and I want to sell this on eBay because I want to make money. An autograph authenticator will need to come over, look at the shirt, make sure that signature is the real deal, and then they'll give me a certificate that will be attached to my shirt when I sell it. And that makes sure there's no fraudulence happening. And that brings us to the end. And before I go, here's a quick follow-up question to think about. What's the easiest way to distinguish between handwriting? The similarities or the differences? Think about what you've learned and what we talked about over this presentation, and I'll give you the answer to the following lab video. I'll see you later. Have a great day. Bye.
All right, I just wanted to throw that in there as a final thing for you to think about. All right, so work on anything that if you got one last zero that you want me to make disappear, you got until today. Grades, technically grades have been posted, but I can repost. So if you think that you can make it an inch better, now's the time. But like I said, what you see in Infinite Campus right now is already posted. So I can change it. I can post again, but after today, I can't. Senior grades cannot change after today. So whatever you do, whatever you want me to do, you got to make it happen today. All right. One last thing I would like for you to do for me, I'm going to give you a Nearpod link, and I just want you to post a comment. I enjoyed working with you all very much, and I just wanted you to uh, post a comment about how you felt about the class. Nice. All right. Say. So I will put that in the chat in just a minute. And that'll be the last thing. Oops. Thought I put a title on it. Okay. All right. So you have finished with everything else. Yes. A couple of y'all had me worried because you weren't here for the test. Give me 1 second. All right, this link that I just put in the chat is for you to drop a comment on the collab board. Doesn't have to be long. It's not for a grade. It's just commentary. And I'm not going to make it visible until after class. So don't worry about other people seeing what you said. All right. Now I need to check on who else needed to take the test. Oops. And again, technically grades have been posted, but if you have, I can repost. Is Jemiah here? I thought she's the one who sent the email that she wanted to take it and she didn't take it. All right, Serenity also not here. Okay. Ayana, hopefully you got it. DeAndre, hopefully you got yours. Y'all made me nervous there. DeAndre, did you get the code for the test? I think he said you did. Oh, who else? I need. Um, okay, who else? Mm, I need Serenity to come to class. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn my phone on. I actually did it. Okay. And if you add something now, please tell me so that I can, oh, that made a nice difference. Okay. Goodness. All right, DeAndre, please take the test so that I can post it. There you go. All right. And I did open up so both the ballistics and handwriting units are open. So if you just need something to read, you have nothing else to do. I left those both open so that you can just read up on those. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think y'all have rehearsal on Friday, so I don't expect y'all to be in class. Is that right? So this might be it. Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. So again, today's it. Last hurrah. And again, it was my pleasure working with you. I enjoy this class. And I hope you found it interesting as well. And again, if you add something, please let me know so that I can. Oh, did it? Did. Okay. at that. All right, let me do. Whoa. I mean, y'all leaving already, and I had not done it. Okay. It is time to go. Time to go. Time to go. Um, okay. Thank you. I will add that in. DeAndre, did you finish your test? All right, it is time for y'all to go. Like I said, it was a pleasure. Good luck in your future endeavors. Kamari, maybe I'll see you next year. Maybe. I think you've taken both of my classes already. So maybe not. Maybe not. All righty. Bye-bye.